Yo, check it. This is Duelist of Awesome coming at you with the Millennium EXODIA deck. This is a real treat for you guys today, so hope you're excited. Look at that shiny EXODIA. Oh yeah, you're excited. All right, we're going to get right into this. All right, for the main engine, very important engine, EXODIA. Very shiny EXODIA. All 5 pieces. Yes, I'm proud of it, as you can tell. All 5 pieces of EXODIA is necessary to play in this deck. Without EXODIA, you will not be able to play this deck. Obviously, you do not want these pieces in your graveyard at any point in time. If they end up in your graveyard, you will be very sorely at a loss. All right, next up, main engine, heart and soul of the deck. 3 Heart of the Blue Eyes. Heart of the Blue Eyes is really good because it is a discard for Ankh. This changes the game for the deck, all right? So you discard, you search your Ankh. Ankh is obviously how you play this deck. It is the heart and soul, and the heart brings out the heart, right? This card also in your graveyard has a once per tool effect that if your opponent summons a monster with 3,000 attack or level 8, you can send that to the graveyard and summon your Blue Eyes for free. That is once per duel, obviously. Otherwise, you're not usually going to be summoning this card nor putting it in your spell and trap card zone. This is really just your search material. All right, next up, absolute must-have. Sangajin Wakes from the Millennium. So Sangajin is really good. This card goes into your spell and trap card zone as an effect. You can pay 2,000 life points or reveal your Ankh, which you'll obviously want. This card can summon itself, and defense or attack does not matter, but it will summon itself to the monster zone and search any Millennium card. So that also means that you can search your Blue Eyes to search your Ankh, only having to pay 2,000 minimum if you don't have Ankh in your hand. So this is really good for that. This card is must-have at 3. You cannot cut this. In the year 3 million, we still won't be cutting this down to 2. So just letting you know. Next up, this was your original searcher for the deck. This is 3 copies of Shield of the Millennium Dynasty. So this card pays 2,000 life points or reveals Ankh from your hand to summon and search Ankh. So this is your searcher along with Blue Eyes. These cards will always be at 3. That is the reason. This card is 3,000 defense, so you're obviously going to summon this into defense position. You're not usually going to summon this in attack position. Searching your Ankh, it's really good. Need to play 3 copies of this card. This is also part of a 1-card combo with Sangajin. So if you bring out Sangajin, pay 2,000, search this, then you will set this, pay 2,000, search Ankh. That is if you don't play Blue Eyes, but you do. So if for whatever reason you can't afford the Blue Eyes cards because those are $24 a pop, which is very expensive, Sangajin is a 1-card combo into Dynasty, which goes into your Ankh, so keep that in mind. All right, next up, and the last for your Millennium package, 2 copies of Golem that guards the Millennium treasures. So this card's really good. It does the same thing as all the other Millennium monsters, can go in the spell trap card zone and summon itself for an effect by paying 2,000 life points or revealing Ankh from your hand. This card searches Wezu Temple. That is your field spell zone. That's really good. This card, you don't really need it at 3. Wezu isn't that important, but it is great. So if for whatever reason you need Wezu on the field, get your Golem. So going into non-engine for monsters, all right, I play 3 Lava Golem. The reason I play 3 Lava Golem is because it is essentially a kaiju for the deck, all right, but it takes 2. Lava Golem is just an immaculate card. Being able to basically kaiju 2 of your opponent's monsters means that if there is anything you're staring down that EXODIA couldn't handle, Lava Golem will, right? So this is essentially removal for bigger threats. Moving into Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, you know why we play Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I really don't got to tell you. Best hand trap in the game. And it's going to stop your opponent from searching, first and foremost. There's some other effects it stops too, but that's going to be the main one. Last up for the monsters and non-engine is 3 Dimension Shifter. So this deck is really good at playing through Dimension Shifter. Obviously, this card will, when you discard, cards will not go to the graveyard. Instead, they will be banished until the end of the next turn. The reason that your deck can play through this card so well is because most of your monsters activate their effects from the spell and trap card zone and summon to the monster zone and search. You are typically not going to be putting cards in the graveyard, especially on your first turn, which means Dimension Shifter is a great stop for your opponent. So Dimension Shifter at 3 copies, absolute must-have. Being able to play Dimension Shifter is a huge privilege for the deck, and it's going to put your opponent in check, especially if they have a graveyard-oriented deck for sure. All right, so moving into main engine spells, 3 copies of Millennium Ankh. This is the lifeblood of the deck. You need Ankh to bring out your EXODIA. Ankh is a necessary part. Searching Ankh is obviously necessary too. If you have Ankh in your hand, the effect of your Millennium monsters will be better because you don't have to pay 2,000 life points. Instead, you can just reveal your Ankh. Ankh reveals the 5 pieces of EXODIA as long as they're on your field, in your hand, or in your deck, and summons the unstoppable EXODIA incarnate. However, it does not do that if they're in the graveyard. So if an EXODIA piece is in the graveyard, you are out of luck for your incarnate. So keep that in mind when playing this deck. But this is an absolutely amazing card. I recommend playing 3 at all times. And moving into your spell, your field spell, Wedge Your Temple. This card is just really good because you can put one monster, any monster in your hand, into the spell and trap card zone, and then choose a Millennium monster from your deck and also set it in the spell and trap card zone. So Wedge Your Temple is a way of searching if you have, maybe an Ash Blossom or just a monster you don't need, but don't have resources. So Wedge Your Temple can do that, and if your Millennium monsters in the monster zone are destroyed, they go to the spell and trap card zone. So they can recur their effects next turn. Wedge Your Temple is absolutely amazing for that. Next up, I play 1 Obliterate Blaze. I like a flashy finish. I'm a Cyber Dragon player at heart, so we obviously know ending it with a lot of attack points is a fun way to do it. Obliterate Blaze will take your EXODIA incarnate and add the piece of EXODIA in the spell and trap card zone, which will remove all spells and traps on the field, or on your side of the field, to replace room for the EXODIA pieces. For each EXODIA piece equipped to him, he gains 2,000 attack. On top of the attack he gained from whatever your life points are, that is almost guaranteed game if your opponent can't defend against that. This is honestly just a disrespectful way to tell your opponent, yeah, I win, eat it. All right. If Lava Golem was the jerk of all cards for monsters, this is the jerk of all cards for spells. Super Polymerization. This card is at 3 of. We play plenty of fusion monsters to go into it. Taking your opponent's resources to fuse into monsters of your own means that you will have to stare down less and less enemies. And since we play dark monsters, and a lot of monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are dark, like 70% of them or something, what that means is 1 EXODIA, if you feel like getting rid of him, plus any dark monster or fusion monster on your opponent's side of the field. Super poly. Easy. Super easy. Super poly. And yeah, so super poly is a great way to get rid of your opponent's resources and make room for your own. It's just the Lava Golem of spell cards, truly. And lastly, your non-engine spell, Called by the Grave, just to put their hand traps down, because you're really going to stop me from searching Ankh? I play EXODIA, bro. You're losing. And yeah, so Called by the Grave, obviously. Moving on to the trap cards. In engine is Exod Fires of Rage. If you control your EXODIA incarnate, you can destroy all cards in your opponent's field. Simple as that. EXODIA incarnate also searches your Exod Fires of Rage. It can also search any Exod or Obliterate card, which means if you play the OG Obliterate or you want to search Blaze, you can do that at the end phase, and it is either end phase, so you can search at the end of your turn and then the end of your opponent's turn. Having this is great because wiping your opponent's board is, well, it's a free game reset, essentially. So Exod Fires of Rage is a must-have. Some people play it at 1. I choose to play it at 2 because if you lose your Exod Fires of Rage, well, congratulations, you played 1 and now you have none. So I play 2. And next up, I play 1 Angel Statue Azarune. So Azarune is really good. This is a trap that turns into a monster and then it self-pops for a negate and destroy. So it's just a free negate. Why not? And lastly, for the non-engine and the end of the extra deck, 3 copies of Imperm. We play Imperm for negating. If you have nothing on your field, you can negate from the hand. It negates a monster effect if it is set in the spell and trap card zone and pops. Whatever is in that column, spell and trap card zone wise, will also be negated. Right? So we love Imperm for that, and it's great. With all these trap cards, I think this is the exact thing you want to do. So that ends off the main deck, and I think that is a really good, well-rounded EXODIA deck. There is some support coming out here soon. I think it's Soul of Gaia. It's essentially Gaia the Fierce Knight retrained. So I will have an updated deck profile at some point for you guys for that, but we're on to the extra deck. All right, the man, the myth, the legend, the unstoppable EXODIA incarnate. Exodia Incarnate is such a good monster. So first of all, it has a once per turn spell and trap negate, which is absolutely easy. No cost, by the way. He just says, yeah, no, and negates that. You can choose, obviously, right? He gains attack points when attacking or being battled, equal to your life points once per turn. Those attack points do not go away. So if I attack you this turn for 8,000, and then somehow you have something bigger and attack me, well, he's gaining 8,000 again, or whatever the total of my life points would be. At the end phase, he searches an Exod or Obliterate card and sets it down to the field or adds it to your hand. Exodia is really good for that. He gives you a big finish. If he's put in a defense position, yeah, good luck with that. He cannot stop monster effects, but also he can't be impermed, because if they try to imperm you, negate it. That's his first effect. So it's really good. The Unstoppable Exodia, must have 3 of. Heart and Soul of the deck. This is all you do. You search Ankh, summon Exodia. That's what you want to do. All right, for your super poly targets, this is going to be very interesting. 1 Mud Dragon of the Swamp, Predaplant Dragos Tapelia, Garura, Wings of Resonant Life, and Chaos Star Source Dragon. So what's great about all of these cards is they are very easy to get out with super polymerization. Their materials for fusion summoning are typically very common cards or common requirements. That being said, super poly means that you are going to be able to use that to bring out these cards using your opponent's resources. They all have good and decent effects on their own, but being super poly targets is the reason we play them, and they are really good for that. With my specific play style, I typically go into Predaplant, Dragos Tapelia, and my Dragon of the Swamp most often, but these are all great options for you guys, and I definitely recommend the Super Poly package. It really just can't be beat in this deck, and I don't see any reason why, screwing your opponent over wouldn't be the first choice. With that being said, we are moving on into the Link monsters. All right, moving on to the Link monsters. We play 1 Silhouette Rabbit. This is obviously really good in this deck. It's a great card to choose. Moon of the Closed Heaven is next. This card gives you effects if you go off into your Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. This card can use one of your opponent's monsters to link into and has a negation effect that is just top tier. Asa, the Earth Charmer Immovable. This card will search your Millennium cards that are Earth type. So, your Millennium cards that are Earth type is Dynasty, Golem, and Sengajin, which are all obviously very good, and the original cards. Moving on to some more generic choices, because I actually had extra room in the extra deck. Access Code Talker for a lot of damage, if that's what you want to go into. IP Masquerena, which is in here because I did not have SP Little Knight. I would personally replace this with SP Little Knight, but IP Masquerena is still a great in effect and negates. And the last 2, Nightmare Cerberus for monster destruction and Nightmare Phoenix for spell and trap removal. Now, guys, remember, when your Exodia hits the field, anything that is not a Millennium monster is sent back to where it came from. So keep that in mind. Exodia first, if that's what you're going to do. Most of the time, you aren't going to bring these guys out, or any of them really. Exodia is going to be your main monster. But if you need to, or some of these effects are situationally necessary, play these cards. They will come in handy. All right, guys, this has been the Millennium deck profile. This deck is super worth it. It is a little pricey right now. I do not know if there will be any reprints in the future for any of these cards. So about 200 will get you most of this deck if you play them at the cheaper prices. This deck is great and simple. Honestly, if a beginner wanted to play and liked Exodia, this is the way to go. But with that being said, guys, this has been Duels of Awesome. I bid you guys farewell. Peace, peace. Chicken grease. Twisms.